Hey, did you know that you can get Canva Pro for free if you are a nonprofit organization? I am going to walk you through how to do that, not fully and completely, but I'm going to show you the basic steps because I'm not going to be able to fill out the entire form with you here. But I want to show you exactly where you can find it and exactly where you need to go. But first things first, you need to be a 501c3 nonprofit. So that means you cannot just be registered in your state, you need to be registered with the federal government. And not only do you need to be a 501c3, but you also need to be a public charity. So there are like private foundations that can be registered as a 501c3, but those are not eligible for this particular program. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So you will see here, as I show you right here, that we are on canva.com. And this is where you want to start. And you're going to sit up here at the top, just take a peek at all of this. And what we're going to go into is the plans button. So from here, they have all these different tiers. As you can see, higher education, nonprofit, enterprise, different teams, all these different plans that you can get for having Canva. We're going to drop down here to the nonprofit. Excuse my dog. I don't know if you guys could hear him. Can you hear him? Okay. Thanks for sharing, Teddy. Okay, nonprofit. We're going to click right there. So now the thing is that you have to have an account already. I'm going to let you know when I first did this, when they first started this program, I made the mistake of attaching it to my personal account because I had like all of our brand stuff and everything in there already. I would recommend you don't do that. I recommend that you associate it with an email associated with your organization. But you'll just go here. I want to take a quick peek at these eligibility guidelines because it's just super important for you to understand whether or not you are actually eligible for this program. And they get really clear. I'm gonna tell you, not everybody is as clear and as accessible as Canva is, but Canva is very clear about the type of organizations that are eligible for this program. So again, as I told you, like if you're in the US, you have to be registered as a 501c3, which means you need to be a federally recognized tax exempt organization. This is separate from that registration that you have to do with your state, right? So this gets you tax exempt. It's that designation that allows people to donate to you and get tax benefits from that as well. So, international NGOs and public charities have very different requirements. So, if you are in another country, you probably want to look into those. But for those in the United States, you just need to have that 501c3. It also says, of course, that you can be social impact organizations with just very clearly stated charitable missions. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it's just a lot easier for you if you have that 501c3. If you have a very clear charitable mission, you can certainly try, but they don't necessarily guarantee it. And so let's go down to these things like if you're not eligible. Number one, if you're like a political or government organization, you are not eligible for this free nonprofit tier. They do have a nonprofit specifically, or not a nonprofit, a tier or an application specifically for the government, which you can take a look at and see if you're eligible for that. You can't do it if you're like an international agency as well. Again, they're telling you go to Canva government. That's going to be where you need to apply for these things. Also, anything kind of state owned, anything government owned, any lobbying or legislative or public organizations, even public hospitals or health departments are not eligible. And not everybody knows, but a lot of hospitals are 501c3s. They are are tax exempt organizations, but they, however, are not eligible for this particular thing. This is very specifically for like charitable missions, right? So again, anything like government or state associated is not going to be eligible for this particular tier in the Canva nonprofits. Now they also have some options and discounts available for educators or for college students and stuff like that. But again, they have different applications for those. So if you are looking for those, because even though colleges and universities are nonprofit organizations, many of them, they are not eligible for this specific tier of Canva, right? This is specifically for charitable organizations. The other thing, because we talk a lot about social enterprises, those aren't eligible for this either, like B Corps, social enterprises, any kind of fraternities, sports groups, none of those are eligible for this specific thing. And specifically, no other 501c group. It's only the 501c3s that are public charities. So, like, not the C4s, which are more political lobbying organizations, fives or sixes, which are more membership oriented. I think sevens, I don't think that's the veterans. I think those are tens. But like nothing but a 501c3 really is what you're going to do. Like, no financial service thing. They go through that list for you really, really clear. The other thing I want to make sure you know is it's this foundations, right? Foundations that do not operate their own programs and only give grants to others. So those are often 501c3s as well, but they're private foundations and not public charity. So they are specifically giving this nonprofit discount for those public charities that are 501c3s within the United States. International organizations obviously have their own tiers and their own things, but for those organizations that are located in the US, operating out of the US, based in the US, that have that 501c3 public charity status, this is for you. Okay, so the things that you're going to need to apply: proof that your organization is officially registered as a nonprofit. So again, if you don't have that 501c3, but your mission is really clearly stated, you need to show that you are registered either with your state, preferably with the federal government, and you have that letter of determination. It's a little different with states. It varies from state to state, whether they give you that different status and how they give you that paperwork. But like having those articles of incorporation are really helpful, that really kind of state like your charitable purpose. That's what these governing documents are going to be. But proof that your organization is officially registered is going to come from some type of government office, whether it's your Secretary of State, your I'm like, sorry, different states have different offices. So it's really hard to say exactly what your state office is going to call. But if you have registered with your state and if you have registered with the federal government, you are going to have that paperwork. And especially from the federal government, they want that letter of determination that says, yes, this person is a registered 501c3 tax exempt organization. Here is when they have that status and how long they've had that status and that EIN number, right? That is associated with your organization. It's going to have all that. That is what they need. And then, of course, they need these governing documents. So that's like your articles of incorporation. That's your bylaws that show your structure and that charitable purpose. And a lot of people get like, oh, I don't know if I want to show those. Well, you have to, right? Those are supposed to be public documents. If you are a registered nonprofit organization, these are supposed to be public documents that are available to anybody. So this is what you're going to have to show that you have those, and that shows that your structure and your mission is actually charitable and is for the public good. So, and then of course it just goes into your country eligibility, and you can look through that if you are not within the US. But I'm more familiar with the US stuff. And so we're going to jump into this apply for the Canva nonprofits button right here, and you'll be able to see. So, like I said before, you already need an account associated with this already. Um, so I'm going to log into one of my accounts and okay. So here we go. Um, once you have logged in, it's going to take you to this organization. This organization. It's going to take you to this page where you can start your application. So again, it's going to ask you what type of organization you are. Now, I want you to be really, really super clear about this because remember, they already told you that public health organizations and government entities and all that stuff aren't eligible for this. So if you're in here, now I don't know if it's the same form, but if you're coming through as a nonprofit, just make sure that you are hitting this registered nonprofit organization. If you are just like a community organization that is social impact, you're going to want to hit that because you remember that this registered nonprofit organization is going to ask for those identifying documents, right? But again, just to be sure that you have a greater chance, I would recommend doing this if you're a 501c3. Of course, it asks you for your country, and then it asks for your organization's name or ID. So this is where you would type in your nonprofit's name, or you would type in your nonprofit's EIN. And I'm gonna like put in a bunch of numbers here, and it's gonna basically give me this. I can't find my nonprofit, right? It's not showing up. And that's okay if it doesn't show up. So in here, you'll put your organization's name. You want to make sure that the name that you're putting in here is the same name that was on your application, is the same name that is showing up when you search on the irs.gov website. Put in your website here if you have it. Then, of course, you just want to show where you are registered. Are you registered with the IRS, meaning that you are a federally recognized organization, or are you only state recognized and you don't have your 501c3, which again is really important that you have and will up your chances. But see, so I said Secretary of State, you see how everything's Department of Revenue, right? State Department of Assessments and Taxation. Like every state has a different name for where you are registering, and knowing where you registered is super important on top of that. And then, of course, your organization's ID, which is usually that EIN number that you're going to need and have in order to continue. So this is where I'm going to stop because I cannot take you through. I don't want to put in any of the other organizations that I work with their identifying information into here. That would just be rude. And other organizations I've already taken through this process. So they all have their Canva Pro for free. So this is where we're going to stop. But I just wanted to make sure you knew how to get here, what you needed to get here, and what you needed to be eligible. So again, you have a greater chance of getting this status if you have that 501c3 and that you're a public charity and that your mission is for the public good. That those are the big things that you need to be eligible within the US. Give me just a second. My dog is messing stuff up. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that you guys know exactly where to go now and what you need to do in order to get that Canva Pro for free for your nonprofit organization so that you can stop paying for stuff that you don't need to pay for. Y'all get that free stuff. Get it, please.